Welcome to the 59th Motocross Des Nations here at Ernee in the west of France, just up the road from Fougères. What an amazing, sensational atmosphere. I'm Jack Bernicle. These are the teams. This is the order in which they finished after qualifying yesterday. The USA qualifying ahead of France and Italy. Great Britain were in there well up. If you check further back down, you'll find that several other pre-race favourites like New Zealand and the home nation of France also qualified well. But what isn't on that list, in 21st place, missing out by just a couple of points to the Netherlands, was Ireland. The gallant Irish squad missed out, but they have already won the B final. Congratulations to Gordon Crockart, Martin Barr and Philip McCulloch. Tremendous performance by them to beat the Slovenians. Crockstar and Martin Barr second and third in the race. Philip McCulloch 12th. Here though, on the starting line, 20 nations contest. The first race features MX1 versus MX2. It may sound unfair, but for sure it is not. This is dynamite. This is Ernee, the Motocross Des Nations, and there, instantly, to the front goes the scaldingly fast little American 13-time AMA champion, Ricky Carmichael. That's just where the opposition did not really want to see him. But number 7, Michael Pichon of the home French team was right with him, but we've got problems straight away for Pichon as he launches himself up an earth bank and immediately flummoxes his chances, while the number 19 bike of Josh Coppins has made a good start. Josh Coppins for the Kiwi team, number 19. Also in there is number 25, James Noble, the 24-year-old riding for Great Britain. In second place at the moment, number 15, Nev Bradshaw. Great start for the British-based South African. Oh dear me, not such a good start for the recently crowned MX2 world champion Antonio Cairoli, racing for the first time on the 450cc MX1 Yamaha, and already he's out, and that stuns the chances of one of the pre-race favourite teams. As we watch the battle between Josh Coppins and, in fact, it's number 16, Antti Pirinen, who's made a scintillating start on the Italian TM. And right behind him, Tanel Leok in an unaccustomed number 10. The positions, of course, from the competition of 12 months ago. Look at that far hillside. Did you see that? 40,000 people are baking in the warm sunshine after we had heavy rain at 7 o'clock this morning. You can see that the track is pretty rutted. Heavy rain that looked as if it wasn't going to go away, but there goes Tanel Leok. He's going away from Antti Pirinen. He's just waltzed his way inside. So Pirinen coming under pressure now from number 25, James Noble. The British team, of course, under the tutelage of 36-year-old former British champion Robbie Herring. There's Coppins, there is Leok. There is Noble trying to get the better of Antti Pirinen. Oh, scorching riding going on here. And instantly, one of the Dutch riders gaining 2 places in one hit. And that's Mark de Ruwe riding this time for the MX1 aspect of the Netherlands. The Netherlands, remember, had a great race in Lierop on home territory. Look at that crowd, listen to that crowd. Fantastic racing. These are the standards at the first lap, but look at Stefan Everts. Stefan Everts is absolutely buried. He's 16th. The 9-time world champion we were hoping to see go head-to-head with Ricky Carmichael is buried in 16th place. And 20th for Sebastian Tortelli. Sebastian Tortelli, the mercurial Frenchman, making his comeback to Europe next year with KTM. This is his debut ride for KTM. He won the MX2 race in qualifying yesterday in front of 20,000 people. Would you believe 20,000 French fans turned up to watch these guys race in qualifying? And look at this, Michael Pichon desperately trying to make amends for that absurd mistake on the opening turn. He tries to cut inside. The number 25 bike of James Noble, and succeeds. James Noble making the sort of start he needed to. And what actually happened? Oh, and it was Antti Pirinen who nudged the fin, the flying fin actually nudged out Mikhail Pichon, and that's what happened there on the downhill. It wasn't really anybody else's fault but his own. Antonio Cairoli. Oh, and there is Pichon. I beg your pardon. Pichon lost the front end and turned sharp, unwanted left into the berm. And now it's him gone. Well, not exactly gone. Look at Carmichael. He's been so scaldingly fast. He was fastest in his practice session this morning, but then Pichon went 4 seconds faster, but that was as the track was drying out. Already he's pulled 7 seconds on Josh Coppins, the runner-up in the MX1 World Championship of 2005. So the short, stocky, red-haired, freckled Floridian really enjoying himself on his factory Suzuki. This is number 19, Josh Coppins. The New Zealand team, of course, one of the strongest pre-race, although they lost Darrell Hurley, who was meant to be racing in the open class. They lost Darrell Hurley, the man who won that filthy wet opening round of the World Supercross Championship last year. Hurley got hurt practicing just less than 2 weeks ago. Cairoli, dismayed, disappointed, totally disenchanted, comes back in and doesn't even speak to his team manager there, Andrea Bartolini. Bartman, who is his team manager, is of course now starring in World Supermoto, the 1999 500cc world champion. Antti Pyränen is still there, but behind him now and pressing hard is the 23-year-old from New Mexico, Ivan Tedesco, on the Pro Circuit Kawasaki, the reigning 125cc motocross champion of the USA. This track may not, well, it may look fairly empty here because the spectators aren't allowed into this infield area, but that far banking of this narrow valley gives them a staggering view. Antonio Cairoli tries to explain now to his team boss what on earth went wrong, but I think it was your own fault, Tonio. Josh Coppins looking good. He's laying down lap times that are almost, but not quite, a match for the man ahead of him on the yellow Suzuki, Ricky Carmichael. The crowd, of course, getting right behind their team. Tanel Leok and Mikhail Pichon is now forcing in 4th place. And Tanel Leok does anxiously glance over his shoulder. Deruva's there. I beg his pardon. Billy McKenzie, here he comes in 6th place. Billy Mack, he wanted to have a go at Ricky Carmichael. He wanted to be in the same race as Carmichael, and he certainly is. He's ahead of Pyränen now, and Tedesco. Masuda making a good start for Japan, and Carl Nunn in 11th place. So a bright start for the Brits. The MX1 of Billy McKenzie, Yamaha, Bike It Dixon Yamaha, is in 6th place, and in 11th place is the champ KTM of the newly crowned British MX2 champion, Carl Nunn. This is the battle going on for the vital points. Mikhail Pichon has moved past number 16. Antti Pyränen, he is. Now he's really beginning to chase hard to try and get on terms with the guys in front of him. Every point counts. Remember, we no longer count MX1 and MX2 separate categories, rather sadly, I feel, as it doesn't really do justice to the fastest of the MX2 guys. So 1st place nets 1 point, 2nd place 2 points, etc. This is Mikhail Pichon. He's currently 3rd, so he will get 3 points for France. And that will be added to wherever Sebastian Tortelli manages to recover to, and he's really hauling through the pack at the moment. So too is Stefan Everts. Look at Everts. Everts and the Rinaldi team Yamaha has reached 6th place ahead of Billy McKenzie, but it was a long fight for him to get through past Billy Mack. What a fabulous sight. This place seen, of course, of many motocross Grand Prix in its time, including that 1994 thriller in which Greg Albertine got the better of Stefan Everts. But Everts, of course, came back here in 2003 and won all 3, the Open, MX1 and MX2 classes of the final round of the championship to seal his 72nd motocross Grand Prix victory. There's Ivan Tedesco. Tedesco on the green Pro Circuit Kawasaki. And he's involved in a battle with number 8, Carl Nunn. So the reigning champions of the USA and Great Britain side by side on Kawasaki and KTM respectively. 26-year-old Nunny there on the orange machine from Mildenhall in Suffolk. Right there with Ivan Tedesco, originally from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Isn't it great the way clashing cultures mix in a sport like this? And just behind them you could see number 47, Jan Zaremba of the Czech Republic, but I've got a feeling that Jan is rather out of it at the moment. However, the USA are the guys at the front, and Great Britain are in the top 6. And this is the guy at the front of the race. What a cool dude Carmichael is. He's absolutely destroyed the record books in the USA, winning the 250cc AMA Supercross Championship this year and the AMA Open Outdoor Championship, as they call it, the 250, on that 450cc Suzuki, under, of course, team manager Roger Da Costa, who's also his team manager here. Oh, not good news for Mark de Ruwe. Mark de Ruwe's made a mistake and gone down after pushing hard to get his 450 right the way through into the top 5. De Ruwe goes down. Not the time to do it. Ricky Carmichael, he's almost cruising on that Makita Suzuki. I was going to say his team boss at Suzuki is also his team boss here with the USA, and that is the legendary 5-time world champion Roger Da Costa. Ricky Carmichael on his final lap. Oh, this is just great. The finish line, and Carmichael exultantly takes the checkered flag, as he well should. And second place behind him will go to Josh Coppins. The New Zealander will grab that second place and 2 points, staying just ahead of a hard-working Mikael Pichon, finishing third. Pichon then finishes third to enormous cheers from this packed gallery on bike number 7. And that's 3 points for France. Josh Coppins, though, hasn't had the backup he might have done. Of course, they've got a bit of they've got a late substitute New Zealander in for Darrell Hurley. Tanel Leok crosses the line. He's in 4th place. Carl Nunn wasn't able to hold on to Ivan Tedesco. And at the USA, it looks like the USA are going to tot up with 7 points from that first race, and France are going to slot into second place. Belgium, I think, after a good solid ride back on his MX2 machine for the 2003 125 world champion Steve Ramon, should be third. And I think that Estonia, a really good, terrific ride by Tanel Leok and also by his cousin Agar, are going to be into 4th place, which of course is where they finished in a tiebreaker with the Netherlands at Lierop 12 months ago. Ricky Carmichael, no doubting the man who dominated that race from beginning to end, and he knows it. 25-year-old Ricky Carmichael, Richard to his friends, takes the checkered flag and leads the USA in their return. Of course, they're attempting to win their 16th Motocross Des Nations title. At the moment, the most race wins, the most titles, yes, you're right, Great Britain on 16, the USA are on 15, and on 14 you have Belgium. That is Josh Coppins of the USA. There is Ricky Carmichael just in front of him on the Makita Fox Suzuki. This is, of course, the Fox Motocross of Nations. I ought to mention that. What a fabulous setting. When you consider the rain this morning, it's great that it's turned out like this. Stefan Everts got past Ivan Tedesco and benefited from that late fall by de Ruwe. He got up to 5th place, Tedesco 6th. Sebastian Tortelli made it to 7th. What a staggering ride by Tortelli. Steve Ramon in 9th place got the better of Billy Mack. Billy Mack dropped back in the last quarter of the race. Carl Nunn finishing right behind him. And a good ride also by Julian Bill of Switzerland. Andrew McFarlane, a disappointing 17th, and Tyler Rattray. What was the problem for Tyler? He was the winner of the last 3 of the MX2 Grand Prix this year, and Cody Cooper was down there in 23rd place for New Zealand. Which means, by my calculations, the USA will lead on 7 points. Actually, we count 5 points, 5 scores out of 6, so they can drop their worst score. And already Jonathan Barragan down there amongst the dead men, and Antonio Caroli for Spain and Italy respectively will be expecting to drop those particular scores. But the USA, I think, can't get over what an epic view that is. Have you ever seen anything quite so sensational? 7 points for America, 10 for France, 14 for Belgium, 17 Estonia, and Great Britain in 5th place on 21 ahead of New Zealand, South Africa and Portugal. The Netherlands on the rostrum last year, nowhere near it this year. despite having John van den Berg, double world champion, as their manager. Australia also disappointing. And look at Italy. Italy with that DNF. Also Denmark had a DNF, so that's just a single score for them, and they'll hope to drop those DNFs at the end of the day. Welcome back to the Motocross of Nations, the 59th running of an event which kicked off back in 1947 at Wassenaar in the Netherlands. And if these names mean nothing to you, they ought to. Nicholson, Rist and Ray, they were the winners for Great Britain that day, and we've won it 16 times, but those Americans currently in the lead are on our tail with 15 victories. Ivan Tedesco, MX2 racer for the USA, is joined in this outing by Kevin Windham, Kevin Windham, the 27-year-old from the stricken Baton Rouge, which we've been hearing a huge amount of back in the UK these past few weeks, as a major sufferer in the massive storms, hurricanes and floods down in Louisiana. But Kevin Windham will be putting that behind him, because the former double American West Coast champion will be looking for victory. The start of the second race then, the open class versus MX2. Another 30-minute plus 2-lap epic in store. And it looks like another cracking American start. It may be Kevin Windham on the Honda who has emerged at the front. It is Windham. In the return of the USA, he gets their second hole shot of the day. David Philippart has also made a great start. Philippart, of course, he's another of the boys who's transferred from the MX2 class to the open class onto the bigger bike for this year. Good start also for the lanky figure of David Villemang, a guy we're not accustomed to seeing very often over in Great Britain. The Frenchman who emigrated in Y2K to the USA to landed a ride with factory Yamaha over there, having never actually nailed a world championship on this side of the Atlantic. Number 9, David Villemang. He's lost his ride at factory Yamaha at the end of this season, but he's still got it at the moment, and he wants to make the most of it. He's being chased by number 116, and who we might well ask is number 116. I can't believe it's Oscar Agavonavas of Lithuania. We'll have to wait and see how that one sorts out. Number 2 getting a good start there is Steve Ramon on the 250cc 4-stroke KTM, the former MX2 stroke 125 world champion. Oh, these downhill ski jumps are sensational at Ernee. What a circuit. Ramon looking more determined and more aggressive than we've seen him in a long time, and he's trying to get the better there of the number 12 machine, Jus Lanso, on the 450 Honda. He is another of the Estonians. He knows that his team, the Estonians, are in 4th place after that first race. And number 21, Ben Townley's also right in the mix. Ben Townley, who's ridden such a stupendous season in his debut season and his final season, possibly in the World Championships with KTM. He's moving on to Pro Circuit Kawasaki. Ivan Tedesco's team probably is Tedesco's replacement next year. Tedesco, of course, will move up to the 250s after 5 years in the States. Oh, what a sight. What a challenging first turn that is. Kevin Windham has the lead that Honda and the USA wanted. David Philippart is second, David Villemang third. Ben Townley is now fourth, ahead of Mark Ristori. Mr. Mark Ristori, whose dad, Louis, used to be a 500cc Grand Prix racer back in the 80s. Lansu is ahead of Garcia Vico of Spain. Seistler of Finland's made a good start. James Noble, a solid getaway for him. But look at some of the other superstars downfield. McFarlane, Rattray, Egar Leoc, Sebastian Tortelli, another nightmare start. And number 90 in 19th place, Carl Nunn, with a lot of work to do. And that's number 21. The former MX2 world champion of 2004, Ben Townley. BT trying desperately to get the better of David Philippart. And he cuts inside the Italian. 39th place for Canada's Doug DeHaan, a likeable man who's a good supercross racer. But Ben Townley is the man who's matching Kevin Windham's lap times at the moment. So Townley, number 21, worth keeping an eye on, the New Zealander. He knows that he needs a good result to back up that second place of Josh Coppins in race 1. So Townley making progress. And the on-course commentator going completely ballistic here as David Willeman presses hard on Yamaha. The fight for second place now is on between Willeman and Townley. David Willeman, former world supercross champion, former French supercross champion, former prince and king of Bercy. Oh, and who we've lost? Down goes Ben Townley. Oh, Benjamin, what are you doing? Lost that front end. That's exactly where Antonio Cairoli went down on the first lap of race 1. But unlike his successor as world champ, oh, and he did. He just got it too tucked in on the bank, and it took the front wheel out from under him. Townley desperately picks himself up. What a mistake for the New Zealanders. David Willeman now clear, the man who turns 28 years old on the 19th of next month, from Berlatin, originally in Provence. And then, of course, living in the USA and married over there and with a kid now. Very popular figure in the States. Finished second to Jeremy McGrath in the AMA Supercross Championship. Rather like this guy's used to doing, of course. Kevin Windham, runner-up in the AMA 125 Motocross Championships of 96 and 97. And then runner-up in the 250cc Motocross Championship of 1999. Steve Whitlock is over here, the big bear on the right-hand side of that picture. Formerly team manager, of course, for the famous Honda Racing Corporation factory teams of the mid-80s. Andrew Sharky McFarlane making progress. Yoshi Atsuda having a good ride for Japan in 9th place on the British-based Motorvision Suzuki. He's just behind Kevin Strybos, riding as the open class Belgian. James Noble has moved to 13th. He's still ahead of Rattray. Tortelli searing his way through the pack, and he's ahead of Ivan Tedesco. So a great Franco-USA battle going on in the mid-pack, and it's vital for points. Both those guys know that after making bad starts that every single place counts in the mid-pack, because they can only discard the one score at the end of the day. And once again, having passed him once and laid the bike down, Ben Townley, number 21, is on the back wheel and taking a face full of roost from David Philipparts. Townley, of course, wants to impress. He's heading off to join Mitch Payton's Californian-based Pro Circuit Kawasaki team next year. The 20-year-old will be competing in the 125 Regional Supercross and AMA Motocross Championship Series. Townley, of course, will know he's got Willeman to deal with again if he can get past Philipparts. But Philipparts riding very defensively. Philipparts' version of what happened in his clash with Mike Alessi at last weekend's Irish MX2 Grand Prix. Made interesting reading, by the way, this week, because it was completely different to the version given by the Alessi family. I kind of sided with the Alessis, really, to be honest. Good kids. Windham, Willeman, Philipparts, Townley, Ramon, Ristori. Great ride by Mark Ristori. The tall, quiet... I was going to say the tall, quiet, acneed Swiss having a good ride. Tyler Rattray gets the better of James Noble. And this is shoulder to shoulder between Philipparts and Townley. But Townley this time rides right round the Italian just to show his pure, superior skill. And the 21-year-old Italian Belgique has to give best. Oh, and he has a moment there, David Philipparts. He almost stalled the 450. We move on to lap 15. This is number 2, Steve Ramon. He's in 3rd place. Ahead of him, we have Ben Townley and David Willeman, because Kevin Windham, 3/4 distance, slid off the Honda, and he took a couple of laps to recoup himself, really, and he's dropped back to 5th place, just ahead of Kevin Strybos, which is a fairly vital confrontation. Meanwhile, we've got Carl Nunn there in 13th place, McFarlane 14th. But also, vitally for the French, Sebastian Tortelli crashed downfield when making mercurial progress in his debut on the KTM. So Townley leads it, second Willemann, third Ramon, sixth place for Strybos, ninth for Atsuta, ahead of Seisteler. And Tedesco's just penetrating the top 20. Ivan Tedesco and Sebastian Tortelli, did they have a coming together? Both of them disappeared downfield on their MX2 machines. And Tortelli's struggling to get back in the top 30. So while Tedesco's battling to get into the top 20, Tortelli struggles to get into the top 30. And those will definitely be the two scores that the USA and France will be hoping that they can get shot of at the end of the day. The final race, of course, will bring the Open and MX1 classes together. As number 15, Nev Bradshaw, riding for the Republic of South Africa, the bright blue-eyed boy from Johannesburg, based with the Motorvision Suzuki team in Great Britain, who lost a lot of this season through injury, has to pull to one side. But Nev's having a good ride. He's only just he's on the fringe of the top 20. In fact, he might even be in 20th place. Look at Ben Townley, that massive downhill airtime on the KTM. This, of course, will be Ben's absolutely last outing for KTM before he heads over to America midweek next week. This is Kevin Windham. The battle on for fifth place. Windham is fending off Kevin Strybos. And what seems to happen is that every time that the 20-year-old Belgian finds just a few split seconds, a few tenths extra, Kevin Windham is able to respond. Windham, of course, who actually quit the sport for a year after he'd broken his femur, and we thought he'd retired at that point. But he and his long-time lovely girlfriend had himself a baby, and it seemed to recharge his batteries, and he came back an altogether different bloke, and more aggressive, more hyped up, more piped up, and has been a really strong thorn in the American scene for the last couple of years. In fact, challenging Ricky Carmichael, but never actually able to get the better of him. Always a great stylist. He's never forgotten the fact that he got beaten by Stefan Everts in an epic Motocross Des Nations race at India Tuba in Brazil in 1999, when the Belgians won, I beg your pardon, the Italians won, and the States finished down in fourth place off the rostrum after Carmichael had hit trouble. Philippart's then trailing Townley, Willemann and Ramon. This is Ben Townley, the leader. David Willemann is getting a really good result in the bag for the French, clawing back a few points from the American team, and they've got to be able to do that. We got a thumbs up then from New Zealand's team manager Russell Burling, who's seeing another good result. Cody Cooper down in 20th place, puts the New Zealanders in 5th place. Well, actually, my calculations don't put the New Zealanders in 5th place. I think they've forgotten Great Britain, ladies and gentlemen, because at the moment, Great Britain are looking to add about 23 points to their 21 from race 1, and I think that's going to keep them perhaps 5 points clear of New Zealand, despite the efforts of this man, Ben Townley. Remember, last year, the last 2 years, Belgium have won this at Lierop and Zolder, but they were sandy tracks. This is far from a sandy track. It may not suit them quite as well. Number 6, Bas Verhoeven of the Netherlands is right there behind Townley, and as Townley takes the checkered flag, Verhoeven only just holds up number 15, South Africa's Nev Bradshaw. But Ben Townley, after that crash mid-race, that was a remarkable recovery. Second place then goes to a loudly hailed David Willemann, number 9. With his familiar skyward pointing handlebars, followed by Steve Ramon in 3rd place. 4th place for David Philippart. 5th place, Kevin Windham holds off Kevin Strybos in 6th. Francisco Garcia Vico makes it 7th. He made his name, remember, in that filthy wet 1998 epic at Fox Hill. Willemann looking serious. He was a member of the unexpected French winning team at Nemours 4 years ago. The only time that France have ever won this, believe it or not. Carl Nunn made it through into 11th place. He got the better of James Noble, but they finished 11th and 12th, and that will definitely keep Great Britain in 5th place. No, it won't. It'll move them into 4th place because Estonia have had a bit of a nightmare. Egar Leok has dropped right back downfield. And Ben Townley, he's not looking too pleased, is he? Oh, Stefan Everts. Great to see a smiling Stefan Everts. And Harry there, little Harry Everts, 4 times world champion in the black jacket on the right. Congratulating Ben Townley, because I tell you what, the Europeans just love to see one put over the Americans when the opportunity arises. And it's a kind of gathering of the clans. Number 2, Steve Ramon, being congratulated on a fine ride. Now Tedesco made it back to 17th place, and Sebastian Tortelli, 29th for Tortelli. So that means the USA should still have the lead, I think. No, they won't. Belgium will have passed them. Belgium, if you count all the scores, will go into the lead because they finished 3rd and 6th, a total of 9 points to add to 14 gives them a total of 23. The USA must add 22 to 7 to go on to 29, and France must sadly add 31 to 10 to go on to 41. So the pre-race favourites, and you know, France are only 3 points ahead of Great Britain then. Great Britain move into 4th place past Estonia, so well done Carl Nunn and James Noble. Jumping Jimmy, of course, will have to be out. The man who's only 3 points short of the British Open Championship with 1 round left. He's 3 points behind Josh Coppins, which is a pretty tall order. There's Sebastian Tortelli down in 29th place. And Egar Leok costing the Estonians with an early retirement. And Joanieri carrying on the disaster which is today for Italy. So if we count all the scores at the moment, the Belgians are in the lead. But remember, these guys can drop scores. And can I tell you something really fascinating? If you drop the worst score for the USA and France, they're tied on 12 points apiece. Get that. France and the USA tied on 12 points apiece if they can drop their worst score. If they can drop those 2 MX2 rides by Ivan Tedesco and Sebastian Tortelli as their 2 worst ones. Fascinating. So we go into the last race with Belgium apparently in the lead, but in fact the USA and France absolutely toe-to-toe. Welcome back to the Motocross Des Nations with a reminder of Ben Townley's 2nd race win. Townley will be out again in the final confrontation, MX1 versus Open. Belgium on 23 points, the USA on 29, but could be 12. France on 41, though that could be 12 also, if you took away. Actually, my mathematics may not be quite as good as I thought they were, but anyway, let's try and figure it out again. This is Michael Pichon of the home French team. Behind him, Estonia's Tanel Leok on the De Groot Kawasaki, the man who finished 3rd in last year's British Open Championship for Motorvision Suzuki. So I'm trying to work out a little bit more sensibly what we have here. The USA have 7, 5, 12, and France have 10. And I'm correct. France and the USA, if they drop the scores of Tortelli and Tedesco from the 2nd race, I never was any good, you know, failed me maths first time at all level, 12 apiece. So a beautifully raked start, an absolutely artistically raked starting straight. This is Kevin Windham. He led that 2nd race till 3/4 distance. And he's got Team Finland on one side of him. People he'll never have heard of or seen before in his life, probably. Kevin Windham, desperate to win this because he actually was on that team that could finish only 4th back in 1999. What about Billy Mackenzie? We think that he should be on a 450. I certainly do. The 6-foot Scot from Long Nidri outside Edinburgh. A good first race outing for him. What can he do 2nd time out? Most of these guys, of course, out on 450s. They can have them up to 650 if they want to have the true open class size. The open class Honda of Spain's likeable 32-year-old gypsy Xavier Garcia Vico. You can see how much, what a friendly, lovely lad he is. And lovely setting here. This is just such a mint event. And it reminds you of that 1988 event at Villars-César when the French just lost out. It's led by Jean-Michel Bayle and Jackie Vimon, only just lost out to the USA. And also in Y2K, when the Americans last won, it was here in France at Saint-Jean-d'Angely, just up the road near Le Mans, after some colossal races between Carmichael, Tortelli and Travis Pastrana. This is the order of well, dare I say, the also runs at the moment. Gareth Swampo went backwards during the first race, during his second ever outing on the 450cc Kawasaki. He'll be hoping to improve on that for South Africa alongside Neville Bradshaw. Look at that, the setting. It's a beautiful day now, 20 degrees. And somebody's in trouble. Get those goggles sorted out, my boy. Is it Townley? Oh dear, come on, Ben. You should have learned how to do that by now. The man nearest camera there, number 24, Blair Morgan of Canada. There's an amazing lineup of countries out in this race. But the ones that matter include rider number 7, Michael Pichon. He needs a good start. The Americans have really nailed the hole shots up till now. Someone else needs to get out of the gate first. And someone else almost did. Whoa, and Carmichael almost gets unseated. A couple of guys have gone down. Is one of them a Belgian? It is! Stefan Everts! Oh, Stefan Everts has gone down, which is absolutely what the Belgians did not want. They currently lead the way, and Stefan Everts, he's back on his feet. But this is Carmichael having a huge dust-up right off the start with number 19, Josh Coppins. Number 7, Michael Pichon, is in fourth place. Telo Leoch goes down on the De Groot Kawasaki. And there's David Villeminck. He's made a bit of a moderate mid-pack start, and he's not looked the best coming through traffic. Can Villeminck do anything about that? He ran well from the front in race 2, but of course the French and Americans can't afford to drop another score, and it's the Americans who've made the getaway at the front. That man Pichon is eating American dust right now, and also a touch of Kiwi dust, and the Yanks are 1-2. The Yanks are 1-2 ahead of Josh Coppins, and they've got absolutely the domineering start that they required. And Antonio Cairoli, well, what a desperate day for the newly crowned MX2 world champion. Right out of it. He's suffering, of course, with a cracked scaphoid. He was riding with that in the final round of the MX2 Grand Prix Series at Desert Martin in Northern Ireland. That's just a week ago. Look at this. We're live here at Ernee in France, and already the remarkable Ricky Carmichael is taking off at the front as the likes of Ben Townley, Josh Coppins and Michael Pichon try to get on terms, and Townley is even roughing up his teammate. He's already fled past, and I think that Josh Coppins wants to let him through. Josh is saying, go on kid, you can go quicker than me, and he knows how desperately Townley wants to get launched into the Americans. So Townley really on the gas. Carmichael, Wyndham, Townley, Coppins, Pichon, Deruva in an absolute fever pitch here. Behind them we've got Garcia Vico. Villeminck has got through to 8th place. Mackenzie is 9th. Great start for him. And James Noble is in 10th place. But Stefan Everts is about another dozen places behind. No, he's not that behind. He is. He's 19th, just in the top 20. So a dreadful start for Stefan Everts just when his team needed it. Kevin Strybos has moved into 10th place past Verhoeven and Pirinen. Michael Pichon really shows the back wheel ruthlessly there to Josh Coppins. So Coppins, having waved through one man, gets passed by a man he didn't wish to get passed by, as we watch Ben Townley, immensely popular on the continent, the 20-year-old former world champion, attacking Kevin Wyndham. Oh, does he want Wyndham's scalp or what? I think he might have got it. Kevin Wyndham being shown the sort of temerity that he can come up against. Well, not next year because they won't be riding in the same class, but I should think the year after this lad will be wanting to be in the AMA 250 and Outdoor National Championship Series, and that's the sort of treatment he might be meting out to Kevin Wyndham. So Kevin gets expunged from second place. The question now is, can Townley do anything about the guy who's someone who's crashed out at the top there? It may be Tunnel Leok, I'm not sure. It's a Kawasaki who's down. Ricky Carmichael versus Ben Townley. Townley's got a bit of clear track ahead of him now. Remember, he went too hard too early and conked out really against Stefan Everts a week ago at Desert Martin. But Desert Martin was a tough, demanding, choppy track. Mind you, this one has got rougher after that early morning rain. Pichon, the best of the French, isn't good enough really, but he's got to close down. He's a second and a half behind Kevin Windham. And Villemang is back in 8th place. So the French, are they going to suffer? And with the runners-up spot on the podium once again on home ground, as they did in Y2K and 1988. James Noble in 14th place. Stefan Everts desperately clawing his way through the pack is 17th, but the Belgians going for their 15th win. They could be out of it. They've won 5 times out of the last 10 years. The Americans, of course, won that historic 13 times on the trot from 1981 to 1993 before Great Britain, featuring Kurt Nickel, Rob Herring, their current team manager, and Paul Malin, dusted them up at Roggenburg in Switzerland in 1994. The New Zealanders now look as if they're up into 3rd place. Of course, they're certainly ahead of Great Britain now because they were only 5 points behind them. Great Britain were 4th. Belgium 5th, and it means that Belgium have got demoted and are presently off the podium, which is will really upset Stefan Everts. But this is Ricky Carmichael versus the kid I reckon is the fastest guy probably in Europe at the moment, number 21, Ben Townley. There is Windham, there's Pichon. Can Mikael Pichon on the Martin Honda, who will be riding alongside Sebastian Tortelli with Team KTM in Europe next year, close that 40-metre gap on Windham? Position for France, as I suspected, 2nd. But Villemang, he just doesn't seem to have the turn of burning speed that he used to have. And Yamaha are obviously aware of that. Look how composed Ricky Carmichael looks. He's just glances at his pit butt there. He's got a 2.5 second advantage. He made the start. He doesn't have to just overexert himself at the moment. He just has to deal with this track and forget about the opposition. The Ville de Ernee. Which has been for so often the scene of epic Grand Prix motocross racing. This, of course, is all for the Peter Chamberlain Trophy that was first awarded and won by Great Britain back in 1947. They have 16 victories to their credit. The Americans have 15 over the years. The Belgians have 14. And right now, the possibility is that the Americans are going to match that 16 wins of Great Britain. And the crowd have just, they're not quite as noisy as they were in that second race when they saw France really getting on terms with that second place of Villemang's. Mikael Pichon from just up at outside Le Mans has got to bear down on Windham, and he's got to be able to deliver the goods and pass him. Mark de Ruver, Garthia Vico, Villemang and Billy McKenzie. Great ride by McKenzie. He's keeping Kevin Strybos back behind him, and Tunnel Leok. And here's Villemang. Villemang has got to make progress through the pack if there's to stand any chance at all, but he's having to take the long line round the outside of number 36, Jonathan Barragan of Spain. Now Barragan is actually being lapped, so Villemang could have done without that particular piece of opposition for the Spanish teenager. Barragan down in 35th place, completely out of it, but is making a race of it against Villemang, but Villemang thankfully, hopefully, will get the better of him. And Villemang make that Windham. Pichon, they are 3rd and 4th. Carmichael's last lap was at 154.6. Townley's 155.0. Kevin Windham on a 157.8, Pichon a 157.5. But right now the Americans are doing enough to reclaim the #1 plate they've always reckoned was rightfully theirs. Windham's looking good. They reckon that he's just the most perfect rider when he's out on his practice track. It's the pressure of racing that's always got to him a little. David Villemin. He must know from the noise the crowd are beginning to make as he goes past. He's got the better of Garcia Vico now. I beg your pardon, it was Garcia Vico that he passed before. Oh, dear me, I'm going nuts. Garcia Vico is down to 8th place. Mackenzie's right there behind him in 9th. And Great Britain vying for 5th place at the moment, I would say, with Belgium, for whom Stefan Everts is only 16th. He's still behind James Noble. So Stefan Everts is really astonishingly out of the frame after that first turn crash. And with Kevin Strybos only 10th, and really a little suspect on the stamina stakes, the 20-year-old on the factory Gabor's Grand Prix Team Suzuki just may not improve from there. Whereas this man, Makita Suzuki's Ricky Carmichael, is known to be fearfully fit. His fastest lap on lap 3, 1:54.6. His last lap, amazingly, 1:54.7. How consistent is that? Townley, 1:54.76, was only 500ths of a second slower on that last lap. 5 laps complete. Carmichael, Townley, and the gap remaining tantalisingly at 2.5 seconds. Tantalisingly, frustratingly from BT's point of view. They're leaving Wyndham behind, and Wyndham looks like he may have the better of Pichon, because Pichon was about 0.3 of a second slower on that lap. Villemin is now 7th, but he's about 2 seconds behind Josh Coppins. Coppins having faded behind Mark Deruva. Seems to be struggling round here today on the Cassonda. Garcia Vico, Mackenzie. Mackenzie is 1.3 seconds behind the Spaniard. And all the tension now is focused really not only on the battle of the front at the front between American giant Carmichael and new European, shortly to become American giant Ben Townley, but all the rest of the stuff that's going on down here. Look at the racing. It's great, isn't it? And that was number 27, Billy Mackenzie, coming under fire now as he tries to get away past Deruva. He has done. Well done, Billy Mac. So at the moment, Great Britain in 5th place, and a storming ride by Mackenzie on the open class bike. Billy Mackenzie on the bike at Dixon Yamaha. And this is Stefan Everts. Stefan Everts, number 1, catching Antti Pyränen, number 16. They're 13th and 14th. And the rate at which Everts is going, he just might eat up his teammate Kevin Strybos, who's the one person he perhaps would prefer not to pass. Oh, but Stefan not looking as aggressive as I expected him to, riding the rim of the berm there, but not actually digging in and getting past Pyränen, who's a man you would expect him to just claw his way past. But they're both now ahead of number 27, James Noble. James Noble on the RWJ Honda, signed up again with Colin Reed's Lincolnshire-based team next year. Antti Pyränen takes a glance over one shoulder as Everts comes past him on the other side, and momentarily seems to stop, and Stefan says thank you very much, and bullets past him downhill, and it's the opportunity. Oh, James Noble went for the outside rut, but I think he may have got forced onto the berm. I don't think Pyränen was quite as kind to the North Yorkshireman. Townley and Coppins, they're headed for the rostrum once again. It's not a place that the Kiwis are unfamiliar with. And it would be behind the USA and France. Ben Townley so desperate to prove his worth here, but he's on lap 6, he's dropped almost a second to the remarkable Ricky Carmichael. And Antonio Cairoli looks like he's reckoning it's time to call it a day. Tony, stick to MX2, mate. We know you're doing that next year to defend your title, and then you're hoping to be off to the USA. So the Sicilian teenager feeling, I would think, a bit small, bless him, as he desperately tries to restart the big bike, and it looks like that may be beyond him. The yellow flags are out as Townley goes through, and it's because Cairoli, his successor as MX2 world champion, is parked up there on the edge of the rut. Carmichael, Townley, this man is in 2nd place, 3rd Wyndham, 4th Pichon, 5th Coppin, 6th Deruva, 7th Villemin. And with 7 laps complete, that gap has finally begun to lever its way open. The Americans showing terrific consistency. Their lap times. Carmichael has actually wicked it up to 155.5 on that lap. Wyndham's doing super consistent high 158s, and that's matching the lap times of this man, Michael Pichon. Coppin's now 7 seconds behind his former teammate Pichon. Deruva, Veerman, Garcia-Vico. And the French commentator doing everything he can to wind up the home fans here. Relatively silent, of course, are the Belgian fans, who look to be headed for a conceivable victory after race 2. Stefan Everts now through to 12th place, just 2 places behind and but 16 seconds behind Kevin Strybos. This is Pichon on his last international outing for Honda before moving over to KTM. The twice world champion, won those 2 championships, of course, with the Gabor Suzuki team. Ricky Carmichael, cleanest man on the track. He's not had to take any roost from anybody. And he's just got it pinned, while Team Italia's Antonio Caroli decides that it's time to just take a break and watch the action and perhaps learn a little. The remarkable Carmichael, look at him just glancing left to see where the opposition is as he storms uphill, sitting squarely on the bike, looking just somehow a little neat, tidy and old-fashioned the way he sits on a motorcycle. But boy, is he quick. So Ricky Carmichael. And Steve Whitelock, the big bear himself. Hiya, Steve. Nice to see you back in Europe. He was, of course, touring Europe as the technical FIM director of the World Superbike Championship in the late 90s, before going back to become the AMA technical director of the AMA Supercross and Outdoor Motocross Series. And here he is, back in Europe. Old stomping ground, of course. He was managing the Honda Racing Corporation's efforts when Andre Malherbe and David Thorpe were winning their world championships in the mid-80s. David Thorpe, of course, team manager when Great Britain beat the USA in 1994 famously. But there is the USA, who are presently with a 7-point advantage over France. That's unlikely to be reversed. And Belgium off the rostrum, defending champions. Remember, they've won for the last 2 years. That will be a huge disappointment for Stefan Everts. He had a few runners-up positions behind the USA during the early days of his career in the early 90s, and he really didn't want to go back to that again. But right now, Everts is 12 seconds behind Tanel Leok. He's in 12th place ahead of Philip Hart and James Noble. Billy McKenzie is still there in 9th place. He's actually cut the advantage of Garcia-Vico down to just 0.7 of a second. This is Kevin Strybos. And Tanel Leok is now attacking his fellow 20-year-old. This is 2 of the young hotshots of the Grand Prix scene, Tanel Leok and Kevin Strybos. Strybos won his first Grand Prix this year. Tanel Leok, the 2004 KWS British Masters champion. And just ahead of them you can see number 25, Billy McKenzie. So Tanel Leok, if he gets past Kevin Strybos, could just get to have a bite at the Bike It Dixon Yamaha. So 9th, 10th and 11th places right there together. And at the moment well clear of Stefan Everts, although Everts has clear track ahead of him. But Everts isn't lapping any faster than these guys. That's what's surprising. These lads are lapping just as quickly around Ernee as the 9-time world champion. Look at those evil ruts in the beautiful afternoon sunshine here. Supporter of the Italian rider David Philipparts have their flag draped over the fence at the top of the hill there. And we have just under 12 minutes plus 2 laps to go. And lots of riders being cheered on round the track here. Strybos being urged on because he's closing the gap now on that man, Billy McKenzie, number 25. Mackenzie, who 4 years ago lost out on what would have been his only British 125cc Motocross Championship title in a tiebreaker at the last round with Stephen Sword. He's there in 9th place, 10th Strybos. In the lead is this man, Ricky Carmichael. In amongst the lappers already. Look at the way he can just let that bike go underneath him. Like his riding style, not dissimilar to the legendary 5-time world champion Belgian Eric Gabors, who was a similarly built, short, stocky man who, under the tutelage of Steve Whitelock, was capable of riding big Hondas like this. Carmichael has eased now 5 seconds clear of the gallant and brave Ben Townley, as at number 22, Simon Homans of Canada very kindly almost pulls up to let Ricky through. Carmichael is proving, well, this is the man who thinks American riders are the greatest of all, and he's certainly going out of his way to prove it right now. His great predecessors who led America to wonderful Motocross Des Nations victories in the 1980s, Ricky Johnson, David Bailey and Johnny O'Mara, his own mentor, always really rated the Europeans and had a great deal of respect for them. I hope that Ricky Carmichael does too. This is Michael Pichon. And Pichon is still trying to hunt down Kevin Windham, number 103, but the boy from Baton Rouge has now opened that gap up to 3.5 seconds. So Carmichael is winning America versus New Zealand, and Windham is winning America versus France. And at the moment, the French are going to have to settle for 2nd place. Coppins is 5th, Deruva 6th. Villemang hasn't been able to get anywhere near Mark Deruva. He remains marooned in 7th place. 7 seconds behind Deruva and 7 seconds in front of Garcia Vico, who's still holding off Mackenzie. Mackenzie now with his hands full and still has Strybos and Tanner Leok climbing all over his rear fender. And the standings remain the same. We don't look as if we're going to have any dramatic late changes as we so often have in the past. It is only Great Britain, 16 victories. The America perhaps about to become 16 victories. Belgium 14, Sweden 7 back in their heyday of the 50s and early 60s. Italy 2, Russia 2, the Czech Republic 1, and France that 1 victory at Namur on Belgian territory in 2001 as we watch Stefan Everts, the immaculate but simply not fast enough 9-time world champion, trying in vain to get his team onto the rostrum. And Stefan is he's now dipped back into the 1:59, so he's actually got back under the 2-minute barrier, but not travelling nearly as quickly as right now as Ricky Carmichael, who's doing low 1:58s. Townley's doing high 1:58s, and Windham has now gone down to the low 1:58s, and Pichon, his last lap was exactly 2 minutes, so it looks like the French resistance has been broken here at Ernee. The 59th World Motocross Des Nations, and the Fox Motocross Des Nations, of course, will possibly be coming to Great Britain in 2006 and then be crossing the Atlantic for only the 2nd time ever. The last time, of course, was the fearfully wet epic at Unadilla Valley Raceway, upstate New York in 1987. The Americans won there too. Ben Townley pressing on, knowing that's all he can do really, as he laps number 57, Marcus Nolan of Sweden, riding a Suzuki. It's amazing how the Swedes, 7 times winners way back, now have to field people that we've never heard of. It's weird how life changes, isn't it? Sweden, they were won for the first time in 1950. Beg your pardon, I can't even get that right. They won it for the first time in 1955 at Orandas in Denmark. And then again in 58. They certainly aren't going to win here today. Nor are Belgium. This is Kevin Strybos. They'll be disappointed. The Belgians don't take defeat lightly in this competition, they really will not be happy bunnies, especially missing out on a podium place. I suppose it does mean that you don't have to suffer the ignominy of sharing the podium with the victorious Americans. Kevin Strybos, currently in 9th place, has got the better of Billy McKenzie, I think. So Strybos has moved up to 9th. And all the cheers echoing around the place as we watch Julian Bill on his KTM number 113. Mistakenly, I think the director picked up on him instead of this guy, the wicked Kevin Windham. Windham is third. Carmichael leads, 12 laps complete, and the Americans still seem to have it in the bag as Mikael Pichon comes up to lap one of the boys from the Southern Hemisphere. But no matter what he does, as he whips past number 39, Lee Ellis of Australia, he's not going to be able to do anything about an American victory. Billy Mack still there in 10th place. 12th place, Stefan Everts has closed that gap drastically. It was about 12 to 16 seconds he was behind that bunch. He's now just about 4 seconds down on Tanel Leok. James Noble in 13th place behind Everts. And Mikael Pichon hasn't given up on this pursuit. He's still going, and the crowd, of course, being French, are still absolutely urging him on. That surely must lift his spirits. Tense times in the garages, in the team garages. 103, Windham, number 7, he's closing the gap a bit now, is he? Or is it just what it looks like? We've got the yellow flags out. That horrible rutted downhill has caught somebody out. Oh, that looks painful. Mikael Pichon hasn't got to take any notice of that, though. He's got to crack on. His last lap time was indeed 0.7 of a second quicker than Windham. Windham suddenly dropped to 2 minutes 1.2 seconds. Did Windham have a big moment? Mikael Pichon would certainly, from the point of view of personal pride, like to get the better of Kevin Windham as he laps Hugo Santos of Portugal. And lapped riders at least seem to be looking over their shoulder, perhaps trying to get out of the way. And let's hope that number 48, Martin Zerava of the Czech Republic, does just that. Yes, he does. This is so often called the Olympics of motocross, of course. But it does include a lot of sturdy no-hopers who are just they're the third team members of their particular no-hoping countries. Well, a lot of Europe's best talent has to stay at home because they're not included in the three-man team, including, of course, our own wounded Steven Sword, who hopes to be back and fit to defend his lead in the Dutch MX2 Championship, which concludes next weekend. Pichon not looking that comfortable in the corners. He looks as if he's having to work desperately hard here, but he can see his target man just ahead of him. Only lapped riders just keep coming between the two of them right now. Oh, look at that. Prayers being offered. The next man, 33, Daniel Siegel of Germany. I just wonder if that's Manfred Siegel's son. Olaf Noack is the team manager there back in 1988. Of course, it was the great Rolf Diefenbach who was team manager for the German team. And there are some great names. Andrea Bartolini, of course, I mentioned. Sweden's team manager is Anders Eriksson. No, not the Enduro World Champion, but the amazingly quick Yamaha rider of the mid-80s in 250cc motocross Grand Prix territory. But there's nothing he can do to help his team right now. They're way downfield. And now the crowd really getting behind Mikael Pichon. They'd like to see a Frenchman at least finish ahead of an American, Kevin Windham. Revin Kevin at the front. Can the man from Baton Rouge hold on? Moved from there, of course, to Corona, California, to be at the nub of the American motocross scene. But Mikael Pichon, who of course got sacked by American Honda after his father had an altercation with an official at an outdoor national over there, after Mikael had finished 4th in the AMA 250 Supercross Series, came back across, regrouped with Sylvain Gabors, and got signed up for full-time assault on the 250cc World Championship, which he won 2 years in a row. And then he's done his utmost to halt the Stefan Everts steamroller over recent years, but without success. The last lap times, incidentally, of these guys, Wyndham 2 minutes 0.7, Pichon 2 minutes 0.2. Carmichael's almost into cruise mode with a 2 minute 1.5 at the front, but the fastest laps tell the story. Carmichael did a 154.6, Townley a 154.7 on their 3rd and 4th laps respectively, before things got as choppy as this. Look at this battle going on here. Tanel Leok, number 36 Garcia Vico, and number 1 Stefan Everts has joined in the fun, and Garcia Vico beginning to go backwards now as Stefan Everts storms past him into 10th place. And he's already got the better of Billy McKenzie. McKenzie's suffering a bit now on the Open Class 450 bike at Dixon Yamaha. Remember, he lost so much. He lost virtually 18 months after badly breaking a foot. Stefan Everts trying to claw back some points. Can he get Belgium onto the rostrum? I would have thought it was fairly unlikely, because Townley is 2nd. Coppins is still a solid 5th, 7 seconds clear of Mark de Ruva. Look at this battle going on here. Number 56, Johan Karlsson of Sweden, glances across, running what on earth's going on as Stefan Everts dives underneath Tanel Leok. And that puts Belgium into 3rd place. So Belgium have a next 3rd place from the Kiwis with that move. And it doesn't look as if there's anything that the Kiwis can do about it. That Belgium, a terrific roar of approval from the men who are holding the yellow, black and red flags, the Belgian tricolores around this track, as they see their 9-time and reigning world champion finally make the sort of progress they were expecting him to make. Meanwhile, look at this. More roars going on. There's Belgium, 31 points. New Zealand, 33. This battle isn't going to make any difference to that. As number 6, Bas Verhoeven of the Netherlands finds himself mixed up in a fray he didn't expect to be part of. And they're really in amongst traffic now. Verhoeven is actually 19th in this race, just ahead of Blair Morgan of Canada and Max Nagel of Germany. And this is a fascinating duel between two men, of course, who were racing for American Honda together back in 1998-99. What did I say about bringing together the cultures? The double, both of them, of course, have been winners of 125 regional supercross titles. Mikael Pichon won twice for Mitch Payton's Pro Circuit Kawasaki team. Oh, and almost a bad moment there from Pichon. He's trying to get past number 12. Oh no, and Jus Lansu is getting the blue flag almost rammed up his nostrils there by a frantic French flag marshal. But Lansu, who of course has been turning a few heads by scoring some good top 10 positions in the USA, suddenly realises, well, he glanced over his shoulder, surely he's going to pull over now. So the Estonian has potentially wrecked Mikael Pichon's chances there, and I reckon that Daddy Pichon, if he's still the same as he was a few years back, will probably be bloodying Jus Lansu's nose after this race. So Pichon has to regroup now. Oh, he's not got much time though. He really hasn't got much time. 16 laps complete. We're into the final 2 laps, and that may have made the difference there, I suspect, for Kevin Windham. Antti Pyränen gets out of the way a bit smarter. How do you stay calm in a situation like this? I don't know. Whenever I've tried to race, all I've done is fall off at the first turn. I'm that frantic before I ever start. This is Ricky Carmichael. How cool is this little wizard? And he's even just acknowledging the support of the French crowd, who remember that epic at Saint-Jean-d'Angely. He had, of course, sunk without trace on a 125 Kawasaki at Fox Hill in Great Britain in 1998. Desperately disappointed not to be part of a winning American team then. He was part of the winning American team in 2000, having missed out again in 1999, so he suffered 2 failures with the Americans. before that victory at Saint-Jean d'Angely. This is Ben Townley. Despite all his best efforts, it looks as if the New Zealanders are going to miss out on the podium. And France and Belgium are going to be the runners-up to the amazing Americans. And you have got to say that they are amazing. They've had a season of 28 weekends of Supercross and outdoor American national championships. The Europeans, of course, have come off their longest ever World Championship Series, 17 rounds around the world. And the French team members and the French fans have still not given up on Michael Pichon. Roaring on their double world champion. Fantastic racing. Meanwhile, Ricky Carmichael, who won the first of his American championships, the 125cc Motocross Championship in 1997, went on to a hat-trick in 98 and 99, won his first American Supercross Championship, the East Coast 125 Championship in 1998. And the only time he came over and appeared in Paris-Bercy, he broke his collarbone in practice and he didn't come back. Probably a sensible lad, actually. So Ricky Carmichael heading for the checkered flag. Meantime, so too is his teammate Kevin Winder, but he's still got Michael Pichon in pursuit. Oh, and I think he's pretty excited at this, isn't he? They were late getting an American team together. They sacked Mike Brown at the 11th hour to put Ivan Tedesco in. But the reigning champion from Albuquerque in New Mexico in the 125 class has not let them down. Ricky Carmichael, triple 125 champion, of course, with Kawasaki. Ivan Tedesco, double 125 champion for Kawasaki. Kevin Windham, double 125 champion with Suzuki in the Supercross classes. And they've put together a winning American team. Two 450s, 450 Suzuki, 450 Honda and 250F Kawasaki. Take victory for America. Ricky Carmichael, what a great performance by him. Steve Whitelock looks suitably pleased, even Doc Wobbly in the background does. Meanwhile, Ben Townley, a terrific, solid ride through to second place. Kevin Windham thrilled to finish third. And has Pichon made it across the line? And suddenly, hands are stilled. The American flag's still there, but what's happened to Michael Pichon? Oh, look, we're already on the phone. We're already on the mobile home. To let the folks back home know that America has reclaimed the Motocross Des Nations, the Motocross of Nations, is once more in Americans' hands. The Peter Chamberlain Trophy for the 16th time. They equal the record of Great Britain. What a great ride by Carmichael. Townley second, third Windham, fourth Pichon, fifth Josh Coppins, sixth Deruva, seventh Villeman, eighth Everts, Strybos and ninth Everts. The gallant Brit Billy McKenzie finishes 12th, just ahead in the end of James Noble on the RWJ Honda. So a good solid ride once again. What the Brits have been doing is finishing actually nose to tail in their respective races. And the crowd here, they'll be disappointed that to see France beaten, but really, and Michael Pichon dropped down to 5th place. I thought he hadn't come across the line. He slipped off, and that's what really silenced the Frenchies on the final lap. Michael Pichon straining to get on terms with Kevin Windham, slipped off and dropped behind Josh Coppins, which might actually make a difference to the overall result for the teams in terms of podium positions. Good ride by Nev Bradshaw. He finishes in 16th place for Motorvision Suzuki and South Africa. Gareth Swampole on the Molson Kawasaki, the second South African, down in 23rd place. Well, what a breathtaking event this has been, but in the end, as they have done so often before, the Americans have clawed it back on the third race. It's always been their sheer consistency. Yoshi Atsuta sadly went out of that, so do Mark Ristori, but they both had top 10 finishes in the second race. But you've got to be consistent, you've got to finish them all, and that is what the Americans are so terrifyingly good at, as well as their sheer blistering speed. And Belgium do remain on the podium just by 1 point. So the fact that Josh Cobbins was gifted 4th place in the race by Mikael Pichon in the end didn't make any difference to the overall result. And I didn't see where Great Britain finished. Oh dear, can we just leave them on a bit longer next time, please? But good solid performances by James Noble, Carl Nunn and Billy Mackenzie mean that we've got a good finish once again for Great Britain. Welcome back to the site of Ricky Carmichael celebrating with French fans. Well, you know how much the French adore American Supercross and Motocross. They always have done. That was the reason for the birth of the great Paris-Bercy annual Supercross in 1984, when O'Mara, Johnson, Bailey and Glover came over and entertained us on that memorable weekend. Actually, it was midweek. It was the Ides of March. It was midweek, March 1984. And they've been admirers of America ever since. That's why so many French riders have gone over to America to make their fortunes, if not entirely win prizes. Jean-Michel Bayle, the greatest and the original, the greatest ever and the original, whatever anybody else might say. And David Villemin, one of the most recent ones. But Ricky Carmichael has fended off all comers in the States. He's won 13 American titles now, and he has now helped them. He has led from the front and regained the Motocross of Nations, the Peter Chamberlain Trophy for the USA. They win it for the 16th time, ahead of France and Belgium. From Jack Bernicle, thanks for joining me. Hope you enjoyed the show. And Ricky Carmichael, well.